My name is Jessica. Now, NFTs are on the rise. So today I'm joined by Only One's Leon Lishing, founder and CEO. We're going to talk through some of the key factors now that are happening in the NFT space and also help you with your first batch of NFTs with a live demonstration. So if any of you guys are watching, make sure to also comment on YouTube, and we're going to run through as many questions as possible. If you've not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. We're going to have a lot more community streams asking the questions that you will have very soon. First, we're going to get a little bit more context on the first ever NFT social media platform. So Leon, thank you so much for joining.
No, pleasure to be here. Always been a big fan of CMC, and it's been a while. And maybe I should tell you more about myself first, and maybe a little bit about the project. So my name is Leon. Easier to have an English name sometimes. And I was graduated as a genetic engineer. My first startup was in biotech. And after that, I got into software, self-taught some programming, invested into a few ICOs. Most of them was a total loss, but you grow, you learn. And so I got really interested into the space of crypto and just kind of been waiting for an opportunity to build something for myself. And around earlier this year, we've all noticed the boom of the NFTs, right? Like on OpenSea and Rarible, the sales volume went up by at least 3,000-4,000%. And that really got a lot of retail users interested on what NFTs are and what they can do. However, I think NFTs as collectibles, as pure collectibles, that trend is going to see a slowdown. I think I feel like it's a underuse of the technology. I think NFTs can do so much more in the context of like different verticals in the world, right? Like the future of NFTs, we believe is going to be very utility driven, meaning it's going to be serving as a feature within the product rather than being the product. So we're already seeing that trend happening with GameFi, right? It's on fire right now. Axie Infinity, Aavegotchi, Sandbox, Illuvium. I mean, you name it, right? Like there's just so many out there. And I think NFTs, essentially as a digital unique identifier, can serve well in many other verticals as well. So one of the things we looked at was in social space. Creator economy has always been inseparable from, content, ownership, culture, right? Which is basically what NFT is all about. So here we are trying to innovate in the social space, and we are the first NFT-powered social platform on Solana. We'll love to tell you more about that in a second.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to dive into that as well. We already have the comments going through, a lot of people saying hi to you. So guys, keep the engagement coming. And also we do have on coinmarketcap.com/earn a learn and earn with Only One, as well as a campaign. So anyone that's watching can get involved on that as well. There will be some links from CoinMarketCap in the description. So first of all, I want to ask, why Solana? Because Solana has boomed in 2021. So maybe you can give us a little bit of insight from an organization CEO perspective.
Yeah, so I think Solana is actually one of the reasons why I think consumer-facing decentralized applications are becoming something possible, right? Because for example, social platforms require a network effect, meaning the value to each user on the network grows as the size of the network grows. And that means scalability, right? And when you have that many users on a platform and all of them are, interacting with the underlying blockchain every single day. If every single interaction with the blockchain costs you $50 or more in gas fee, that just doesn't enable enough microtransactions to make something like this possible, right? So we're starting to see other consumer products ready already. For example, Audius is one that we really look up to and learn from. They actually have, correct me if I'm wrong, but over 6 or 7 million monthly active users already. So I think that's actually pretty impressive. So scalability would be the answer.
Yeah, scalability, also low gas fees is a huge trending point as well. And especially for a new entry point of these lower tier investors as well, it just doesn't make sense feasibly to to put up with Ethereum gas fees. We're sorry to say it. So when we look at the platform that you guys have built, an NFT social media platform, you have identified an issue with current social media platforms. And I don't need to list them. Everyone knows YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. These are the big dominant houses. You did identify an issue with them. So maybe talk through for our viewers that will find this interesting, it impacts them, what the issues you found were.
Yes. So I think it's no secret that centralized social platform has been, a topic of discussion about, abusing of personal user data, content creators being pressured for demonetization, or people just talking about what they usually talk about, but they get banned, right? So a quick example would be BitBoy. We all know BitBoy. He even his account got banned like twice, I think a couple months ago. Or Raj, the COO of Solana, got his account frozen just a couple weeks ago as well during the Solana conference. So that was very interesting, and all of them for reasons that I don't think should have been banned. So I think that just goes to show how how they are able to control what gets to be or not to be on the platform. So two things, right? If you want to boil it down of why conventional social media is broken, number one is creator economy. So content creators have to heavily rely on third parties to make money, right? Like on YouTube, you have to rely on YouTube ads, for example, and then most people are on Twitter here, and also like Instagram, TikTok. If you want to monetize your content, you kind of have to go through third parties, like whether it's affiliate links, paid shout outs, merchandise sale, sponsorships, all that good stuff. So we kind of one of our aim is really to help content creators monetize without having to rely on third parties, right? And the second thing that we have touched on just now is all about giving the control back to the community, right? Or let's not even get to like political agendas. I originally am from China, and that means there are certain things we cannot post in Chinese social media. So that kind of control is just not the best user experience when it comes to social platforms. So just a quick example here. Even Joe Biden and Barack Obama's Twitter account was hacked last year, right? And they were asking for Bitcoin with a Bitcoin address. And you know what? They're the presidents. So, people actually fell for it. So that's just one issue with the platform being hackable. If this was done on the blockchain, then is by no means hackable. And then
sorry, just to interrupt. I do remember this event, and what was interesting about this hack here, it was around 80 high-profile people, but it was insider from Twitter that had actually helped with it. Was infiltrated that way, so it was from a centralized issue with the staking that had caused this to come through.
So it's an insider job. So
it was
that bolsters the point there. Thank you. So censorship. This PowerPoint was made for the Solana conference, and interestingly enough, Raj, the COO of Solana, actually was censored during the Solana conference. So that was pretty interesting. And the reason why he got censored was the issue here, right? He said a joke about something like "I'll kill you," and it's a reference to another joke from somewhere else, and it's by no means a real, violence conversation. So that happens plenty of times, across different social platforms with different people. So ultimately, ironically enough, this is what Mark Zuckerberg said that really aligns with what we believe is the future of social media, which is a DAO, right? So it's not sustainable over time for one person or even one company's operations to be making so many decisions, balancing free expression of safety at this scale. So what he's trying to say here is, when there is such a big amount of user base, like having 15,000 community managers sitting in the Facebook corporate office is not enough to regulate the entire platform. So ultimately, what potentially is a good solution is to have the community actually serve as the decision maker when it comes to community guideline as well. So ultimately, what we're trying to say here is to build a decentralized social media, two things needs to be done. One is having a decentralized creator economy. So creator economy is the incentive structure for user-generated content, right? So by being decentralized, it also means it's fair, and it also means they have removed the reliance on third parties. And then the second point is a DAO governance. So DAO, for some of the audience out there, it stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, where basically the users or the stakers of the platform also gets to help govern the platform, right? And usually in the context of most maybe DeFi platforms, this is governing of the product development cycle or maybe certain algorithm improvements. But in our context, it's all about content regulation, right? So ultimately, the goal is to balance between safety and freedom of expression. So those two things can sometimes be a little bit tricky to balance. So how creator economy should be. Creator activity should help them turn it into income. Like that's probably a dream, a holy grail. And we're not the first one to attempt this. Even if we go back in time, back in 2016, 17, which Jess, I'm sure you've been around then as well. We have other social platforms, like the biggest one's probably Steemit, and then things like Mithril, maybe when Mithril was still a social play, and then Gifto. Most of them revolve around like rewarding content creators for producing quality content. But that model slowly turned out to be not that sustainable long-term, because it's all about rewarding people with the platform token when the platform token is not utilized enough, right? So it created this inflationary model. And then fast forward to earlier this year, BitClout, got all the clout. And there's also other platforms like Roll, Rally, User. Most of them do something called creator tokens or social tokens. So basically every content creator will have their own token, and users can then trade these tokens, anticipating the popularity growth of those content creators. Now, I think that's a brilliant model because it does decouple the platform inflationary aspect with the rewarding aspect. However, if you look at it from a social media point of view, it's almost like leveraging social media to do more trading. If you go to BitClout, it's a brilliant platform, great design, and also they have their own layer one. But I feel like there's a lot more trading activities happening more than social engagement. So what we're trying to build here is really to focus on social engagement through something we call creator staking pool and Genesis NFT, right?
And this is what we are going to talk about now as well, because this is a very interesting element. And I think we have heard of decentralized social media platforms before and the surge of them. But I think something that's definitely caught the attention of our viewers is the NFT element. A lot of people are probably watching and going, well, how can NFTs be involved in something like a social media platform? So I'd love to hear your insights on that.
Yeah, so this is our take on Web3 social media. So here it is. We're sort of combining NFT with DeFi in the context of social media. So creator staking pool, basically every content creator have their own pool for users to stake in. And the APY on these pools are going to correlate with how active these creators are across social platforms. So, in the full-fledged form, the APY, the data we use to calculate the APY will be injected into the smart contract using oracles. And it will be taking multiple variables into account. For example, how frequent do they post, how engaging their fan base is, how engaging they are to their fan base, and the quality of the content, the sentiment of their community, all that good stuff. And the creator would earn a very small percentage of the total value locked as well. So basically what happens is then the more active they are, the higher the APY, the more likely users will stake tokens in these pools, and the more the creator would earn, right? So this is our way of creating this new creator economy. And of course, some of you might be thinking, where is this reward coming from, right? So ultimately, it's all about balancing the inflow and outflow of tokens. I think for a lot of platforms, they don't really think that deep about like why. I mean, how rewarding people is good, but then where does the token come from? Like, you can't just keep giving out without taking back in. For a business to be a real business, I think you do need to be making revenue, even if it's decentralized eventually. So basically, we have also a NFT launchpad and a NFT marketplace where these creators can basically sell NFTs, and there's going to be a platform fee that injects back these tokens into the pool that we use to give out to the community, right? So eventually, we're going to have to balance the outflow and inflow of tokens. This model is actually heavily inspired by Axie Infinity, which we do learn a lot from in terms of token metrics, because I think they made a few interesting assumptions. For example, their community or their reward tokens is vested over 60 months. So that gives them a plenty of amount of time to reach this point of equilibrium where the inflow of tokens is more than the outflow, right? So here's also where the NFT comes in. There's something we call Genesis NFT per creator. So every content creator has their own Genesis NFT. There's only one, hence the name. And the owner of these Genesis NFT gets special access to this creator. So say, Jess, let's say you are a top trader, and people would love to learn how to trade from you. And you can say, whoever owns my Genesis NFT, you'll be my best friend, and I'll mentor you on my trading strategy. So that gives this NFT owner somewhat of a special status on the platform, right? Imagine being the owner of PewDiePie, right? So that could be very interesting. And you also earn a very small percentage of the total value locked of this creator pool as well. So that's a mouthful. Any questions from you, Jess?
No, this is a really interesting element. And I think what's very promising about the concept, and we do have a few questions, and guys as well in the chat, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you do have any questions for Leon as well, do let us know. But I think I like the idea that actually it really encourages you to search for these emerging content creators and bring them on board as well, and speak to them in a way and see how you can inspire them and be part of their journey. It almost encourages you to look through them a little bit more. So I wanted to ask you now, before we do go on to the next part of the conversation, where we are going to be looking at some of the NFTs that you have on the platform and just talking through both of our impressions of them and answering some questions from anyone that is looking to get involved in NFTs on the chat. And just to remind you guys, all that are watching, if you don't go on coinmarketcap.com/earn, learning and only one campaign is also taking place as well. But first of all, Leon, how did you get involved in NFTs?
So on the project level, so I was very interested on NFTs and what it can do. So since earlier this year, I was just basically researching into every project that was trying to do NFTs, obviously starting with CryptoKitties and Punk. Those things were sort of the OGs in the NFT space, right? And then I feel like crypto moves so fast, right? And within this single year, it has evolved so much. Even just within the collectibles space, right? It's number one is now super saturated. If you go to NFT calendar, I think you can see like over 10 drops every single day. They all have the standard list of attributes with the rainbow teeth, the laser eyes, and all that stuff. So it's becoming a standard play, in contrast to the beginning of the year, where I think is a few projects that are doing things that are very different. So that's interesting. And on a personal level, I do buy a lot of NFTs because I think it's it's true ownership to a digital piece of art. And some of the NFTs, they're not just NFTs, they are actually a very functioning DAO. Give you an example is the DGen Ape Academy. I bought a few DGen Apes before and didn't really think much about it afterwards, but I was invited later to a community in Hong Kong where I'm based. And those guys actually hang out. And in order to be part of that club, you have to be an owner of a DGen Ape, right? Like they go out for dinner, they'll go out for, night outs, stuff like that. And I thought that's really interesting because NFT actually pulls people together in real life and not just a profile pic on Twitter.
And I do like this cross-pollination we are seeing now with real world. I was at a Dubai startup pitch yesterday, and actually there was a project that was looking at fractionalizing NFTs of real world art. And they'd actually partnered with Banksy, and they were auctioning off NFTs of a fraction of Banksy. And I do think it is interesting to see this real world interoperability between the DeFi space, the kind of the tech world, and then the real world that we're seeing. It definitely makes it a lot more tangible for new users. So that's a really interesting one. But at the same time, when it comes to the price of the apes, I think now it would be quite an expensive club to get involved in, no?
Yes, all these apes. I haven't, like, full disclosure, I don't even own a Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's just way too pricey at the moment, but I feel like, that's what the market deems it to be priced at. The floor, I think now is like around 40 ETH, which is like what, 300K USD. So definitely a very high demand collection.
Awesome. If what we do now is we're just going to do a little bit of a Q&A on NFTs. If you want to stop sharing your screen just for a second and move it over to gallery view, just so our viewers can kind of see both of us in the conversation. Amazing. So now when it comes to the future of NFTs, so before we get involved and we'll have a look at some of the NFTs on the platform, guys, like I've said, do make sure to interact with us on the chat and we'll answer any questions that you do have. Future of NFTs in 2022, what are you expecting from the space?
I'm expecting from the retail investor side, a more selective criteria when it comes to what NFTs to buy, as they learn more about what NFTs actually mean and what, when people say they want to be part of this new paradigm shift and decentralization, real ownership, digital assets, creator economy. For 99% of the people, what they really mean is they want to mint NFT and then flip it for 2x or 10x, right? So it's not, I think right now it's it's very transactional. Most people are in it for the money. But I think in the future, NFT is going to find its place, a more permanent and useful place within the ecosystem. And that's in the form of utility token, right? This really reminds me of the time in 2017 when every token is trying to say they are a utility token, when in fact a lot of them don't even need blockchain to exist, I mean the project. So I think this is going to be a similar thing that's happening with NFTs, where every NFT collection actually gets sold out if they do like some level of decent marketing. But then over a long run, I think only a very small percentage of these NFTs are going to be around with a decent floor price. And that's going to allow a lot of like retail investors to really think twice about, okay, so I've invested into like 50 different NFTs and only 2 of them worked out in the long run. Why? Right? And I personally think that's going to be dependent on the utility of the NFTs. If you look at both NFT collections, you're going to see very copy and paste type of roadmap, right? Like you're going to see probably some sort of game development long way down the future. You're going to see a DAO, you're going to see maybe some floor sweep, maybe some royalty split, which is makes it a security, which is dangerous. So I think in the future, we're going to see a lot more unique plays with NFTs as early as next year. Yeah.
As early as next year, that is sooner than we thought. But the NFT space blew up, I think, in a way that a lot of us found unimaginable in 2021. So you've mentioned kind of unique utilities of the NFTs. So what I'm going to actually do now is ask you to showcase some of the ones that maybe you have on your platform or that you've come across in your time, and just talk us through, and we'll have a little bit of a conversation, and obviously the community can ask some questions as well. Just some NFTs that might have stood out for you when it comes to a level of uniqueness.
Awesome. So let's just talk about NFTs. So I'll showcase this collection first because this is ours. It's called The Ones. And so a lot of people actually I feel like they didn't read into like what these NFTs are, but essentially this is our focus group, right? Like we are developing a platform that is a social platform and it requires a lot of user testing. And we're going to basically let the holders of these NFTs to have pre-release view and basically beta tests of the platform before any new feature releases, right? And so this is going to serve as like a DAO for product development on only one platform, but it's still being built out right now. Let's talk about the art a little bit outside of the utility. It's actually developed or created by an artist from Toei Animation, and he actually animated One Piece and Dragon Ball Z. So One Piece and Dragon Ball Z, if you're familiar, it's a manga from Japan, and it's quite famous here in Asia. So this is artist that helped animated those. Yeah, so that's the first collection I would like to showcase, and perhaps if some of my personal favorites. Actually, I don't know if it's out there yet, but Degenerate Trash Pandas, which I believe came from the original creators of Degenerate Apes. Like all my friends are raving about this. Like I personally miss the mint, but I think this actually looks very interesting. They have a very fun looking face, and like all the attributes looks amazing, slightly 3D. Yeah, so this is one of my favorites. And of course, Degen Ape is like.
To interrupt you there, you said something really interesting, which was that you missed the mint. So would you say for people that are watching, if you have to get in at the mint level, that's really imperative for if you do want to kind of optimize and make some investment when it comes to NFTs, is it still a bit of a gamble, or is it you can still buy them once they have been revealed?
I think if you research into, like, if you go to NFT calendar and you see all these drops, right? Like this is just today. Yeah, today alone, there's like quite a bunch of drops, right? Like I've been losing track of like NFTs, new drops anymore because the entry barrier is just way too low now, right? Like Jess, you and I, we can start an NFT collection today and we get it done like within a week, right? So like you need, maybe the cost would be between $5,000 to $10,000. Get an artist from Fiverr, white label some minting contract, a front end, and do some marketing on Discord. Like all that together should cost you less than $10,000. And people know the profit margins on this, right? So personally, I think we're going to see somewhat of a correction in terms of like new NFTs, and like there's going to be a turning point where a lot of them don't get minted out anymore. And then it's going to be, we're going to see a lot less of these new drops every single day. However, to answer your question, yes, if you do spot a really good drop, for example, one of the recent ones by Genesis Go, who is one of our partners in terms of working with RPC nodes, they have a collection which they call, I think, Shadowy Supercoder. Which is, if you have minted it, then congrats, because it's actually, I think it's priced pretty well now, and it's actually a DAO as well, Supercoder, Shadowy Supercoder. So they are actually a very important player in the Solana ecosystem. They help a lot of the projects to run their RPC nodes and making sure the network stays, nice and healthy.
Awesome. Now we do have some questions in the chat as well when it comes to what the space is like for NFTs. And we do have one really good question here, which is, what are the use cases for tech firms introducing NFTs? If they do want to get involved in the trend, is it possible, and how would they go about doing so?
How can tech firms utilize NFTs? I think that depends on the context, right? Like NFT is not just as a one standard type of play where it's just a piece of art, digital ownership, right? Like think about NFTs, I think, more accurately as a verifiable digital identifier. So if you think about what's in the real world that might require such a thing, maybe personal identification, maybe a vaccine test. Like imagine a vaccine test that's stored as a metadata inside an NFT, and you don't even need to carry around your certificate anymore, because you can just show them your public key and they can see, okay, there it is. And then there's also maybe things like traceability, right? Like maybe exotic wines. You might want to have an NFT that really proves their ownership and authenticity. So yeah, I think it really depends on the industry.
Okay, awesome. But we are going to see not just the tech space get involved. There's going to be hospitality. You've mentioned kind of leisure, tourism. There's really so much opportunities there. So thank you so much for giving some insights. I know that our community have definitely learned a lot. I'm going to thank everyone else for watching. And guys, if you do already want to get involved, you can go on coinmarketcap.com/earn, learn and earn with only one campaign. There is links throughout the description and chat panel today. So enjoy. And Leon, thank you so much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure to catch up. And I'm sure we're going to be in touch again very, very soon.
Thank you very much, Jess. It's been a pleasure.
Amazing, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to keep up with any more content like this.